Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire. You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Heritage Radio Network is supported by Visit Ithaca, where great minds meet the great outdoors. Check them out at visitithaca.com. Ithaca is known for outstanding dining. And here's a word from one of those great local businesses.
My name is Kukwa Jibodi Yomepe, and the name of the restaurant is Asempe Kitchen. I started out at the farmer's market, and the reception we received was so overwhelming that I thought it made sense to stay in the area. My goal so far has been to create some space for everybody who feels disenfranchised or feels like they're not represented to come together and have a place to be. So we have been working really hard to be more than just a restaurant. So like a place to just rest, get some really good food, and maybe some good conversation. We have community tables, and I kept the communal tables because of the way I feel about building community. The food is mostly vegetarian. It's from West Africa, mostly from Ghana. I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa. I've been in the U.S. about 30 years. On Sundays, we do a brunch, and during brunch, we offer meat as an option to folks who eat meat. I'm very much a purist when it comes to the food. I like to offer people the authentic, stuff.
To plan your next trip or to find out more information, go to visitithaca.com.
Welcome back to Pizza Quest. I'm Peter Reinhardt. Our never-ending quest for the perfect pizza has also led us down some parallel paths at times, and my favorite one of those paths is the never-ending quest for the perfect cheese, or cheeses. And we're back on that quest in this episode with one of our most popular guests, Mark Todd, also known as the Cheese Dude. In previous episodes, Mark has guided us through tastings of cheeses by category, such as pasta, filata, mozzarella-style pulled cheeses, or Alpine-style washed rind Swiss cheeses, the huge world of cheddar cheeses, and all those amazing dry-aged cheeses like Parmesan, Romano, Asiago, and we even tasted some great stinky and blue cheeses. If you're new to Pizza Quest, and if you are a fellow cheese freak like me and Mark, I highly advise you to go through our archives and listen to some of those earlier episodes over the past few years. But today, I asked Mark to take us to the Mount Rushmore of his favorite all-time cheeses, the cheeses I absolutely must try before I die. So our cheese quest is at last getting close to the summit of the mountain. So from the woods of the West County in Sonoma County, California, the Cheese Dude returns. Welcome back, Mark.
Great to be here, Peter. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you. Any fellow food enthusiast is a friend of mine.
You got it. And of course, we're kindred spirits in so many ways, including the fact that I used to live just up the road from where you live I know those woods where you live, and I keep looking forward to the chance to get back there and spend some time with you in person. But
that'd be great.
This must have been both a joyful and also difficult task for you. So before we get into tasting them, Mark, what was your process for determining your Mount Rushmore, your all-time favorite cheeses?
It had two sides to it. A few of them are cheeses that just made a huge impact on me where I was in my cheese life at the time. Mm-hmm. Some of them are ones that opened my eyes because I didn't know things could taste like that. A few of them are ones that became such staples in my world that I just couldn't imagine myself living without now. But mostly this is just a collection of cheeses that walks through a lot of different families that all really touch on some of my favorite flavors in cheese.
Yeah, and these are different categories of cheeses, and we've kind of explored them individually in the past. Now we're kind of crossing over to kind of the best of the best, so to speak.
Right.
But okay, so you've been in the cheese world. You've been immersed in cheese, as they say. I think I heard an old saying that to a worm living in horseradish, the whole world is horseradish. You've been living in the world of cheese. The whole world is cheese for you. How many different kinds of cheeses would you say you've tasted over the years?
Oh God,
Ballpark.
Many hundred.
Many hundred, yeah. I mean, was it Charles de Gaulle who said, "How can you govern a country that makes?" I don't remember how many he said. 600 different kinds of cheeses or something.
Yes,
like that.
that's an approximate quote. Everybody says it different, and I never really seen the exact one, but it's about 600 something cheeses.
And that's pretty, and that's just scratching the surface of probably the total amount.
Yes, nobody has a real count because they come and go. The problem with cheese is that it is such an individual, the artisan cheeses, they're such an individual product that if you don't have an apprentice that has been making it with you right by your side under your supervision for a number of years, your exact cheese will die with you. Because every step of the way makes a difference in the final product. You can write all the recipes you want, and you cannot absolutely replicate that cheese unless you have seen it done by the person who made the original cheese. That is one of the problems in the history of cheese. You can get close. You can get 97%, but you will never actually duplicate it, and really never can, even if you apprentice. You're still doing your version of their version.
It's like apostolic succession.
Exactly.
Had to have your hands laid upon you to pass the lineage on to you, and then even then you're going to bring your own personality into it. So that's interesting because we're talking about some cheeses today that are well known, but as you said, they may not taste the same. And then we all have different palates too, and we react to cheeses differently. Some people like pungent, strong, smelly style cheeses, and others like mild, subtle cheeses. And I mean, we all are different. And then we're also moody. So some days something might taste great, and another day we want something else.
And it's hard to imagine, hard to believe how much, literally, how your day is makes the difference in how you perceive flavors. Your attitude, your mental attitude goes a long way towards telling whether or not you're going to like a new substance. If you're having a bad day, that's not a good day to try out new shit because you're probably new stuff. You're probably not going to like it. But that's everything about your day, what you had for lunch, what the beverage you had on the ride over, all of that will affect how things taste to you. Today we're just going to do our best,
Well, we're going to look at 5 cheeses today that you kind of selected. So we'll say as among your favorite taste bites of all time with cheese. And we'll go on to the Mount Rushmore, which only has 4 presidents, but we're going to maybe add a 5th one to it because I understand there's a movement afoot to try to add a 5th president to our Rushmore. I hope it never happens, but I'm fine with putting 5 cheeses up there. We've done shows on like the Mount Rushmore of favorite singers and favorite everything. But when you got back to me with your list, you sent me some notes. I got them in front of me. I'm going to read the ones that you suggested I go find. I wasn't able to find all of them, and I got some as close as I could. And we'll talk about the difference between the one you identified as the sort of the very top and the ones that I got. Because, again, cheese is hard to source. It depends on your cheesemonger. I went to Whole Foods, which has a nice selection, but they have the certain types of cheeses they're not allowed to carry because of contracts and stuff like that. So they got me the closest thing that they could get to what you said. So I'll read these off for everybody who's listening. Caciotto al tartufo. So I hear right from the front, there's a truffle cheese right there. So, and the one you recommended, the caciotto, was not one I could find, but it's a cow's and sheep's milk semi-soft cheese with black truffles from near Rome. Think Italian black truffle intensity delivered with a velvet umami bomb of a cheese. And then you made some recommendations for each cheese on what kind of wines go best with it, what kind of breads and crackers. Another one that you suggested, and this one I was able to get, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but Epoisse. Is that right?
It's just Epoisse.
Epoisse.
With an S, Epoisse.
A serious washed brine cheese. That's the one that's kind of smelling up my studio here. My studio is filled with aroma, and a complex aroma because we got 5 cheeses, but this one is dominating. A washed rind cheese, and we'll talk about what washed rind means again, from the Burgundy region that, when ripe, is the closest thing to sex. I'm quoting you on this.
Read the whole thing, bro.
And I'm sure other people have probably said the same. It's the closest I've ever been served in public to sex. Served with French baguette. So I got some baguette here to pair with it. And then there's some wine pairings I think go well with this. And we'll talk about that when we get to the cheese.
Sure.
A cave-aged Gruyere. Over 1 year, preferably. So I got one that the store assured me that it's over a year old.
Yep.
Although on the wrapper, it only says, guaranteed 60 days.
Yeah. 60 days. 60 days is what the law says you have to do. So they put that on there. But yeah, you got Kaltbach, and that's about 14 or 15 months.
There you go. So it's over a year. A mildly washed rind cow's milk cheese, with an incredibly complex flavor, infamous as the cheese that gave fondue its addictive, earthy, nutty, umami character. It's also the first great artisan cheese I fell in love with 34 years ago on my very first cheese gig. By the way, your very first cheese gig 34 years ago, and now recently you have retired from being the guy on the cheese gigs. You are now a free spirit living in the woods of Sonoma County, living the life, and baking bread. Well, and we'll talk about that later on. So, but we got one here. We'll talk about the one I got in a second. You suggested Sursoir from Rothkopf, and I couldn't get that one. But I got.
We mentioned that because that's the one I had originally. You'll never find that one. The one they got is perfect.
That one you mentioned is your first lover.
Yep, that was my first eye-opening experience with artisan cheese, man.
Wow. And now for a really tough call. Okay, so we got we had to choose between sort of Parmesan and aged Gouda. We decided to go with aged Gouda. And so we got one of your favorites are Sea Counter, 4 years old, 3 or more year old Borencas, or if you cannot find these, a Beamster XO. All of these were ones that you mentioned, and the distinguishing characteristic of these is that they are caramel in color because they've been aged for so long, and they're hard and they're golden and amber colored and incredibly complex. So we've got that with a caramel butterscotch flavor.
Mm-hmm.
With, as you say, with a hint of lowland scotch.
That's it. Keep the whiskey flavor.
Okay, so we got some crackers to go with that. And then the last one I got, and I think we're going to start with this one in the tastings, is a really ripe triple cream brand you suggested with Brillat Savarin. There's some other ones like Pierre Robert, Delice de Bourgogne. They're all French. And I've got some French bread to go with it. It's incredibly beautiful. It looks like a super ripe, about to explode brie.
Brie is traditionally double creme, meaning it's about 60% fat by dry weight. Triple creme is 75% fat by dry weight. So that is a baby step away from a stick of butter.
Yeah. Which is why it's so good. All right. So those are the cheeses we got. Now I got the one that you called for, so we don't have to compare it to the ones that weren't on the list. But you did give a few of these. So the three that you mentioned, the Brillat Savarin, the Pierre Robert, and the Delice de Bourgogne, are they all pretty much
fairly similar? Fairly similar, yeah. When the rind is the biggest difference between the three of them. Each of them use a slightly different mix of the molds that produce the rind on these cheeses, and that's what flavors it and what ripens it, what softens it. And so each of them has a slightly different mold mix, so they ripen slightly differently, but they're very similar cheeses.
And these molds, just for, again, most of the people who are watching and listening are probably cheese geeks like us, but for those who are newbies, this mold is perfectly safe and good to eat, right? We want to eat that, right?
Yeah, it's beneficial. In fact, the mold, the rind on the outside where the mold is where most of the calcium ends up on this particular cheese. Part of the rind that is, as it forms, the mold pulls calcium out of the body of the cheese to form that rind. So if you don't eat the rind on a brie or a white molded cheese, you're missing most of the calcium nutrition.
Interesting, and I never heard that before. That's incredible.
Yeah, you want to look for ones as it's. Let's see. Can you see? There we go. You see at the outside edge of that where it's.
And I'm seeing it on my screen, but some people are only listening on the audio version, so we'll just
Right near the rind. You'll see that it's very smooth, has no little open holes in it. It's very creamy. That's where the rind has pulled the calcium out of the body and has softened that part of the cheese. In the middle of the cheese, you'll see that there are still little open holes. That's where the rind has not gotten to ripening it yet. So mine is about 2/3 ripe.
And as it gets riper, it just gets softer and creamier, huh?
It also what's happening is it gets softer is protein is breaking down. The last stage of protein breaking down chemically is ammonia. It breaks down into ammonia. And so these cheeses will often have a slight ammonia aroma. Typically, if you open them and let them breathe for about 20 minutes, that ammonia is very volatile and it blows right away.
Oh,
if you leave it open for half an hour, get up and smell that cheese and it smells like Mr. Clean, don't eat it. It won't hurt you, but the whole thing is going to taste like ammonia.
it's going to taste like
not over ripened, and you cannot back that process up.
So mine is been sitting out for an hour or two. It's very soft and we're about to dive into it. But before we do, I want to backtrack 1 second.
Sure.
Just in general,
Yes.
can you give it just a general definition of what is cheese? I mean, it's a category that has, as we said, hundreds and hundreds of variations. So, as somebody in France might say, cheese is just spoiled milk.
Cheese is intentionally spoiled and fermented milk that with the water and sugar primarily removed to extend the shelf life of the protein and the fat. That is what cheese originated to be. When you have liquid milk, in a gallon of, let's say in 10 liters of milk, 9 liters is whey. That's water, mostly water. Of what you want to make cheese is only about 8% at most of the volume of milk. 8%, maybe up to 10% ends up in the cheese. 90% is whey. That whey, which is water and sugar primarily, that is what causes spoilage. If you can get that away from the protein and the fat lasts a lot longer. That's where cheese originated. And
it's a way of preserving milk, in other words.
Exactly. It was I think Briot-Savron listed it as that's the guy Briot-Savron is where that cheese got its name, by the way.
Yeah, for the famous
French gourmand.
Gourmand, yes.
He said that cheese is milk's leap towards immortality.
Love it.
And I think that's
why he's so famous. Dude, lines like that. That's a great line.
Yes. So that is what cheese is. That's why we have it. That's why the drier the cheese is, the longer it lasts. You can throw Parmesan in your fridge and keep it for 6 months. You do that with brie and you end up with a nasty ammoniated moldy piece of yuck. So it's all about the salt content, the water content, and how much sugar you converted in it. So all the cheese convert 100% sugar.
So so basically, if you have 10 pounds of milk, you're going to end up with maybe, if you're lucky, a pound of cheese.
That's it.
Wow. Yeah, and I in my earlier life, I was a wannabe cheesemaker when I lived in Sonoma County myself, and I remember those. When I had the milk from our raw milk dairy up in Willits, and I'd say, hey, they'd give me 50 pounds of milk. I say, so I'm going to end up with 5 pounds of cheese.
Yep.
So this is the moistest of all the cheeses we're going to eat today, correct?
Pretty much. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna. Is it okay if I just dig in with a spoon on yours, or should I? I'm going to go right to the center because that's the most buttery part.
Actually, in this case, go towards the rind.
Okay,
because it's the softest by the rind. So the top corner of the rind, where the top meets the edge, is going to be the creamiest part of all of it.
I see it. Yeah, because down the bottom of the edge, you're starting to ooze out.
Yep.
So I'm going to kind of break through this.
There you go.
And oh my God,
Look
yeah,
at
it is like eating pure butter.
it
Here you
is
go. I'm going to take a bite.
butter, but better.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, I think you're right about. I guess all these cheeses you could say is so sensual that it is like sex.
It is.
Oh man, and then the center of this is so creamy that it's about this texture of yogurt right now.
Pull it back. Pull back. There you go. That's it. Yeah, it's like yogurt.
Oh my God. Well, I'm
And
coming back to
it's
that
right.
one later.
Yeasty, earthy, mushroomy,
Mushroomy.
creamy. Oh my God.
That mushroomy quality it is unbelievable. Now, I got a little bit of baguette here that
Clean your palate.
as a palate cleanser. I also have some grapes and I have some apple juice, now you mentioned some wines. Let me just mention some of the wines you suggested to pair with this.
And the beers. Don't forget the beers.
And beers, but in this case, you suggested sparkling wines for this cheese, correct?
Correct.
So that's sort of the usual go-to.
Yeah, the thing that the mistake people usually make is going for the driest wine they can get. They want, brut or natural champagnes. In a case like this, with this buttery cheese, an off-dry sparkling wine actually works better with it. By having just, it's not sweet. It's not like, one of the Italian sweet whites, but it's an what they would call off-dry. It works beautifully with this. Cava, Spanish cava, work quite well with this. Prosecco, which is a slightly not as dry as brut, works quite well with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh
man,
good stuff.
That is amazing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would call that a date night cheese.
Absolutely.
If this is the girl or person you're trying to impress, get that cheese, and then you'll find out if this is a real match. Because if they go, well, I don't eat that stuff, move on.
I was going to say, yeah, you shouldn't have dated him in the first place, man. You didn't be able to figure that out before you start.
Well, we started kind of like right there in the middle of the honeypot. So we're gonna let's try another cheese here.
See,
which would you suggest second?
I'm going to save that applause for a little later for you, because once you do that one, it's going to be hard to go back.
Okay. And
so let's go with the Gruyere.
Okay, I've got the Gruyere here.
Mm-hmm.
Gruyere, of course, I love fondue. I love cheese that melts really great. I think when we did a tasting with these kinds of cheeses, right? And after the show was over and I had cheeses left, I made the best grilled cheese sandwiches I've ever had in my life. So the cheese that I got in its place, I got the Emmy Cave Age Gruyere. So it's an Emmy. Emmy is a domestic branch, isn't it? It's not. No. This is the
Swiss
imported version.
This is Swiss. That's real Swiss. So Emmy bought a company in Wisconsin, so they have a footprint in the U.S. But that's a Swiss cheese. If you look on the end, it'll say Swiss someplace on it. And it's the name of it is Kaltbach. The one you have is Kaltbach.
Okay. Oh, it doesn't say that on the wrapper, but that's what it is. Kaltbach. Okay.
Right.
And was that on your list of options?
No, but that is exactly what I was talking about. That is a cave aged Gruyere that has it's Gruyere's legal standard of identity says it's got to be aged 60 days. 60-day Gruyere is like rubber. By 6 months, it starts to get a little softer. By a year, it's much softer. By 14 months, this is what you get. It's creamy. It's got a nutty, earthy flavor to it. Yep, that's the one.
Got a kind of a rind to it.
Yeah, and don't eat the rind.
Don't eat the rind on this.
No, if you think about it, when they say cave aged, that means the outside of that's been sitting around in a cave. I don't lick the bottom of a cave.
I mean, those aren't the good bacteria.
That's not literally where they age it, but in general, anything you see that has a rind with names printed on it, don't eat that.
Okay, that's good to know because I have in the past wondered about that, and I have tried it. But let's talk about what washed rind cheese mean. What does that term even mean?
Well, it goes back to the Middle Age. Well, as far as we know, it goes back to the Middle Ages when the monks in Europe needed to replace meat in their diets during fasts. They had different fasts at different time of year where you could eat this, but not that, but not this. So when they had to cut meat out, they wanted a protein source that reminded them of their meat. And meat before refrigeration was, to put it mildly, gamey. If you ever saw Shogun, you know what I mean. Where he ripens his chicken, and the Japanese people throw it out because he's making it rotten. But meat was very gamey. So they tried to figure out ways to make cheese that had that gamey, earthy flavor of meat. And they washed the outsides of the cheeses with salt water and some of the whey from yesterday's cheese, and maybe add some herbs, maybe add some alcohol, a little beer, a little wine, something, and then just wash the outside of the cheese. The more you wash it and the smaller the cheese is, the more that flavor penetrates the body of the cheese. Surface area.
Yeah.
So things like Limburger, which is about the size of a stick of butter, it picks up the flavors a lot. You wash it every day for 3 weeks, that cheese will blow you out of the door. Gruyere is a big cheese, 70-pound wheel, about maybe that wide. And so it has a lot of surface, but it's a big piece of cheese. They will wash it daily for a week or two, then maybe once in 3 days, then once a month. And by the end of about 6 months, they quit washing it and they let it dry. And if you take that pebbly brown rind on the outside, sit it on a wet wash rag for an hour, it'll smell like your epoisse.
It really just takes off.
It just blows up. Yep. So when you by having a big cheese that's not washed as much, this picks up some of that earthy flavor, but not as intense as you get in your epoisse.
Well, as I'm eating my piece of cheese here, looking for what the flavors, and one of the flavor notes that seems to come out is this nutty quality, and nut-like quality. And so, yeah, and you also kind of used the umami term, which is a very savory quality. So, like you say, it's like you don't need meat if you can get a good piece of Gruyere.
Exactly.
Gruyere, what differentiates Gruyere from the other, quote, Swiss cheeses that?
There's basically, if you put Swiss cheeses in like 4 quadrants, you have harder cheeses, soft cheeses, like epoisse, things like that are gooey and soft. Then you have the harder versions like Gruyere. Those are wash rind, soft wash rind, hard wash rind. Then you have the soft, plain cheeses, which are I can't think of a good Swiss version, but like a brie style, they make things like that are soft cheeses versus the hard versions, which are like Emmental.
Emmental, yeah. Is that what Emmental is? The one we typically in America would just call Swiss cheese.
Exactly. And that one gets its unique flavoring from the things that make the gas bubbles. The little eyes in Swiss cheese are gas bubbles, and they're formed by a propionic bacteria that originally was an accident. Now it's very intentional, and they do it to produce that uber nutty flavor. I mean, Gruyere. I mean, Emmental has this. To me, it almost tastes artificial. It's so nutty. But I for me, Emmental and I have always had an argument because of one of its characteristics called post-melt chew. When you heat up the cheese and then let it cool down, Emmental turns into shoe leather because it's very low fat and it loses all its oil, so it turns into just protein. It's like shoe leather.
Yeah, interesting. So it's rubbery.
That's why you never see leftover fondue. When fondue solidifies, it never goes back. It's done. It turns into rubber because if you use Emmental in it.
But if you're using Gruyere, then
100% Gruyere, you could reheat it. because it'll remelt.
And that is because the reason that is because the proteins,
The fat versus protein content. Mm-hmm. When you take out too much of the protein, fat sticks together and you can't get it back apart. Fat kind of keeps the protein from sticking together. And the less fat you have, the more the protein sticks together.
So that would be, going back to your analogy, so the Emmentaler would lose it, the fat would be out and the proteins would be stuck together. And that is it's a chewy quality. And with Gruyere, if there's more fat, or it just stays in.
Once you heat that Emmental to the point where it melts, it separates out completely. The oils go one way, the proteins stay there.
And you can't get them back together.
No. So that's there. The pizza chains have measurements for it called post-melt chew. And that's why on pizza restaurants around the world, you will never see Emmental Swiss cheese listed as an optional.
That's it.
Because about half the pizza is eaten cold after it's, when you're done. And if it turns into shoe leather, it's like you might as well eat the box it was delivered in.
But if they made that with Gruyere instead,
which I do,
it would work. Oh yeah. Well, there you go. Meanwhile, I'm drinking, like sips of apple cider, freshly squeezed apple cider. It's the season for apple cider. And I also have some grapes. So we're in grape season. Why is it that apples and grapes pair so well with cheese, and actually sort of complement the mouth experience, the flavor experience?
One word: acid.
The apple.
Acid apples. Apples have an acid called malic acid. They're stronger in green apples, but all apples have malic acid. We like malic acid. That's one of the flavors that our tongue says, yay. We have learned to like acidic foods because somewhere along in our history, when we became primates, we quit being able to produce vitamin C in our bodies. So we have to get it from our diets now.
Oh.
Most mammals can produce vitamin C by breaking down their own food, and they don't have to add it. But somewhere in the lineage, when we became primates, the gene dropped out, and we had so much fruit that we were eating as a species, we didn't miss the gene. And so instead of being a killing situation where we die of scurvy, we substituted it by our diets. Now we can't produce it ourselves.
Wow. Now I didn't do that.
That leads us as a species to seek out things that are acidic, because that is where you'll get your vitamin C fix.
Wow. Interesting. So that need that's being filled through the fruit, married with the flavors of the cheese, of the proteins and the
protein is inherently rich. Cheese is inherently fatty, and those things coat your tongue, and your tongue ceases to be able to pick up the more subtle flavors of other foods because it's overwhelmed by the amount of flavor and oils that are on it. Foods that have high acidity, champagne, wine in general, has tannic acid, but acidic fluids will help remove that oily surface on your tongue and brighten the flavor of things.
So it's so complementary that we're going to get flavor notes that we wouldn't otherwise be able to perceive.
Absolutely,
when we marry them with these acid fruits and things.
And my partner John and I have done during COVID. One of our clients paid us a lot of money to sit at home for months and months and do nothing but pair beverages and cheese. And I mean every beverage you've ever heard of, every kind of hard liquor, soju, baijiu, you name it. Every kind of soda pop that's ever been made.
Really?
Every kind of tea. I did 11 or 12 different kinds of teas. And apple juice was the universal beverage. It went with every cheese we had. I mean, blue cheese, pretty good, but it went with virtually every cheese we tried it with. I've never seen a beverage like that.
Well, I'm glad to know that it's not just my imagination, but that my intuition was right on when it came to apples and cheese. I just crave, and whenever I eat cheese, I crave apples. I don't know. And right behind it is I'll crave grapes, especially with blue cheese. I'll go with the grapes in the blue cheese. All right. Well, we got to move on to another cheese. We could spend all day talking about any one of these cheeses.
Absolutely.
So we move to the butterscotch here.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Okay, I'm going to hold this one up. This one is again it's called Articas, the 36-month age Gouda. My Gouda, you get caramel color or butterscotch color. I'll say is more accurate.
You see all the little spots?
Yeah, there's white spots in there like mumps.
Did you notice in the Gruyere when you got right down to chewing the last bit of the curd, there were little bitty crunches? Did you get little tiny crunches in it?
Yes. They're like crystals almost.
Yeah, that's the very beginning of the precipitation of crystals called tyrosine. It's a amino acid that comes out of cheese as it ages. The little dots you see there are spots where tyrosine is starting to form. That's what happens in really old cheese.
Now, is there any nutritional?
It's just another amino acid. By the time it gets to this point, one of the reasons that aged cheese is better for you than fresh cheese in a lot of ways is by digestion. The act of ripening cheese is actually similar to what happens in your body. It breaks down the proteins in different ways and makes them more accessible to the body. So things like Parmigiano Reggiano is used in baby formula in Italy a lot because it's one of the most digestible forms of protein we have. This is very easy to digest.
But it's also like one of the most unusual tasting cheeses I've ever had. First of all, I'm getting the crystal. It's almost like chewing sand, some of it, but pleasantly so. I like the sort of crunchy sound in my mouth. Mm-hmm. But the flavor, it's filling up my palate like you wouldn't believe. It's like it's just full of butterscotch.
Yep. Caramely butterscotchy, but with it's got that whiskey undertone. It's got that peat, like peat.
Whiskey. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it just is, it's so rich. It's like dessert in a bite.
It is. I guess you can't really eat a lot of this because it is so rich. It'll knock you out,
and to be honest, if you look like me, and which I'm not going to get up and show you, but I'm not a small gentleman. If you eat cheeses like that Brie Savron, number one, the Brie Savron is, even though it's a triple creme, which means 75% fat by dry weight, it has a lot of water in it. Mm-hmm. So as it's served like that, it's about 13 grams of fat per ounce. So almost half. This Gouda, because it has almost no water left in it, is not that far behind it. So as far as fat per gram in your mouth, the Brie Savron is high, but not as high as some dense cheeses, because the dense cheeses are all fat and protein and no water.
Because, so in other words, the ratio is different.
Exactly.
So I'm looking at your description here. These cheeses are like caramel butterscotch with a hint of lowland Scotch whiskey. And now that you put that thought in my mind, I'm tasting it. I'm tasting the familiar flavor of Scotch. So,
but it's the peat. It's the lowland peat Scotch, not the Highland clean stuff. It's that one. It's like I can't even think of a good brand of it, but like Lowland or something, where they cook they toast the grain with peat.
And you say pair it with a Belgian Dubel Alas or cream stout, Oloroso, or Amontillado sherry.
Yes.
And most Madeiras. All those are great pairings. Why do those pair so well with this?
Sugar, basically.
Like you say, it comes out the one word. It's acid or sugar.
Or sugar. In this case, we've got the beers, which are very high malt. Malt is a sugar. So they get the intense malt flavors really complement the sweetness of the cheese. That's where I would call a complementary pairing, where the flavors are similar, as opposed to the brie, where we were doing creamy and acidic. That's a contrasting pair. So by doing the sweeter beer, the maltier beer, or a slightly sweet sherry, or a sweet to heavily sweet Madeira, it's going to be a furtherance of the dessert course, basically.
Well, it's funny because then, as you were saying that, I took one of the grapes that I had, one of the red grapes, and just on a hunch, and boy, did that complement the flavor of this rich butterscotch,
Absolutely.
scotchy malty thing. And it just and it brings another dimension of flavor to it. So which is kind of the fun part, I guess, of all these pairings is that you're creating a whole realm of flavors within your own palate.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite foods in the entire world is sushi. I absolutely adore sushi. When I go for a sushi feast, my last piece is always unagi, which is the eel. It is then cooked, which I don't usually do many cooked fish, but I like that one with the teriyaki on the top, because that's like a finished course. That's like a dessert of sushi. This is the dessert of cheese.
Interesting. No, I know. And that's something that not too many people, unless they're cheese geeks, would know that, because this is not a cheese you commonly see in someone's home.
Right. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to include this in this group is people are probably going to run into something like a brie in their life, something like that. If they're into cheese, they're going to run into something like a Gruyere. They'll probably run into something. They may not ever run into that Epoisse, so I picked that one for that. But the aged Gouda is one that the texture is almost waxy. It's not creamy like a cheddar but the texture is unique. The flavor is intense, and it's one that most people would never pick up if you didn't put it in their mouth first.
Now, you pronounce it Gouda. That's the proper way to say it, not Gouda. Most of us say Gouda, but Gouda is the right way.
If you say it like a true person from the area, it's more like Khowda. Gouda. Like Gouda.
And what region is that from? Where is that originated?
It's in the Holland province of the Netherlands, in the town of Gouda.
Therefore the name.
Yes, and right down the same little, they call it a valley, but from the top to the bottom of the valley is about 5 feet. So I wouldn't really call it like a hill. But down the valley is another town that's called Edam. That's what comes from there.
And we would call it Edam cheese or something like that. Edam, yeah. And is that a similar cheese? Is it made in a similar fashion?
They're made virtually identically except for the fat content. The Edam is part skimmed, just like Parmesan is, and like Emmental Swiss, they take some of the fat off of the top, and that goes into butter or something else. And the cheese that is produced is a higher protein to fat ratio. So when you look at a slicing case in a deli, Edam is square, Gouda is round, because it sags, because it's softer. So they make Edam in these square loaves. It goes on a slicing machine perfectly. And that's what you'll find on your sandwiches usually. Gouda is much softer and much easier melting cheese. So that's what you'll find melted into products.
And it does melt nicely. It does
beautifully.
It's great. So many of these cheeses that we don't associate with pizza serve pizzas really well.
In moderation. That's I use artisan cheeses like you would use a seasoning in a sauce. Nobody wants to eat a peppercorn sauce that is 4 pounds of peppercorns and a half a cup of wine.
Right.
So it's the ratios, but certainly using small amounts of cheeses like this aged Gouda, you could put that Brillat Savarin on a pizza and it will freaking disappear. It'll just like become oil and be gone. Yeah. I've done it and it's okay. You can taste the rind, but cheeses like that aged Gouda, if you shred that real fine and put like 10-1 on that with mozzarella, you would still taste it like it was the whole pizza.
Would it be better to put it on after it comes out of the oven, or actually bake it on?
It depends on what you want it to have, how you want it to perform. It's not going to melt and flow like your mozzarella. So if you put it on afterwards, it's basically just going to soften, and you're going to get the texture of the bite, the waxiness of it. If you want it to be more incorporated, then I would shred the mozzarella and finely shred the Gouda and then blend them first and add them to on top of the pizza. That way the cheese inside that's not on the direct surface will melt fully and incorporate with the mozzarella, and it'll start to pull again. And you'll get a lot better texture out of both of them that way.
And it'll actually it'll give the mozzarella the illusion of having a whole lot more flavor than
exactly. Exactly. But if you just want that bang on the top, pop, then obviously put it right on the top.
You could use it like Parmesan, like some people use Parmesan that way.
Exactly.
And using this, but I mean, I could see at a pizza competition finishing off a pizza with some shavings of this.
I tell you, if you do a thin crust, light thin crust pizza with mascarpone on the crust, little cubes of gorgonzola, caramelized pecans, shaved chocolate, milk chocolate,
wow,
and shaved aged Gouda. That is probably one of the greatest dessert pizzas I've ever eaten. We made that at, I don't know, Pizza Expo some year, and people would come around and just say, "Is one coming out soon? Right. Is there one around? Can we get a taste?"
And it's the complementarity of all these flavors that you've tapped into there.
Right.
Awesome. Well, this is giving me ideas, lots of ideas. So hopefully some of you were listening, and I know some of you enter these pizza competitions. Think about the fact that there's a whole toolbox of resources of cheeses that aren't even known about yet that could give you a competitive edge. So
I tell you, I worked Pizza Expo show for many different companies over the years, and during a long stretch in probably early 2000s, the competitors were coming by our booth and asking about what specialty cheeses we had, and one of the smoked mozzarellas that we were carrying ended up on one of the pizzas that won a competition. And so, just by doing that, like you say, just by using all the variety available to you from the cheese as one of your ingredients, you can change the flavor and texture profile of your pizza 100%.
Which brings us to a cheese that is kind of me here that is calling to me. It's the one with truffles.
Yes, let's do that.
That's this one here.
You have Sotto Cerne.
I have Sotto say it again. Sotto Cerne.
Sotto Cerne.
Serene. And al tartufo, meaning truffle.
Yeah, with truffle.
So is this one, this is imported also?
Yes, that comes also from Italy. It has truffle in the body of the cheese. On the rind, it has a really unique herb blend.
It says it right on the label. It says cinnamon, nutmeg, licorice, fennel, cloves, anise, truffle oil, and they say the rind is inedible. They claim it's inedible. It sounds like pretty edible to me, but
I don't eat that rind. Okay. It is there just to flavor the cheese.
Okay. And so it gives it a very nice sort of bark, so to speak,
right
on the cheese. You can see the little specks. I'm guessing these inside the cheese are these specks of truffle itself.
Yes, yeah, those look like specks of truffle. Yep.
But most of the truffle flavor is coming from the infusion from the rind.
No, the truffle flavor comes from those black truffles in there.
Okay,
but all the rest of the flavors, the cinnamon, the nutmeg, all the things that they add to it, those only infuse from the rind in. And you'll see that those flavors are much more intense towards the rind. The truffle will be truffly all the way through.
So I've cut off a little piece here, with include some rind. I'm going to work my way to the rind and see if I can tell the flavor difference.
There you go.
Yeah, and then of course, and it's really not overpoweringly truffled.
Right, you don't want that. You want it to be the number one aroma, but you don't want it to dominate everything else to the point where you can't smell that it's cheese.
And I can definitely when you smell just the rind section, it's much more pronounced.
Yes,
including the truffle is more pronounced. But then,
but now, if you got a really good nose, smell the truffle oil on the outside.
Yeah,
on your big piece. Go to the big piece you've got.
Yeah,
and get away from the center of the cheese and smell just the rind itself.
Yeah.
Now smell the center of the cheese. It's truffly, but it's a different truffle. because the truffle oil that they use on the outside only has about 4 or 5 of the flavor ingredients that make truffle, whereas truffles have 70 or 80 different flavor components in them. So anything that's truffle oil is mostly, I mean, unless you're spending $200 for a little bottle with truffle in it, it's chemically produced and it's not that good. But that would,
yeah,
that is real truffle.
but now, even though the aroma is very subtle, the flavor when you bite into the heart of the cheese is super pronounced. The truffle is like it's coming out now in my mouth. I'm tasting it and I'm loving it.
Mm.
I'm going to go work my way closer to the rind.
Go for it. Now, when the leftovers you had last with the Swiss show, with the Alpine show,
Yeah.
try that one, the one you got right there with in a grilled cheese.
This one here? Oh, my God.
Oh, boy.
Mhm.
Truffle grilled cheese is pretty okay.
So what is the cheese base itself? What kind of cheese is this? If you leave the truffle out, what would you call that cheese?
Semi-hard cow's milk cheese. It's not, it isn't a, I mean, there's no standard of identity for what the base cheese is. That's why, it's Soto Serne. It's all I can say.
You say serve it with a plain crostini, like a little cracker here.
And I like crostinis best because they're one of the lowest salt crackers. Most crackers, commercial crackers, are just packed full of salt.
That's in there.
And treat cheese has enough salt in it already. You don't need to add more. So that's why I tend towards crostini or breads that have much lower salt content, per gram.
Pair it with Moretti La Rosa, Dolce Malto. That's a beer. Malto beer. Or Barolo.
Or Barolo
On the wine side. So those are all pretty robust.
Yes, but they're smooth as hell. That Moretti beer is a double malt lager, so it's very clean and crisp, but very malty. So it's not like an ale that has all the tropical fruity flavors and all that stuff in it. It's a very clean, intensely malty beer, and but it's super velvety. And the Barolo, by law, has to be aged. I think it's a year in barrel 4 years in barrel, 1 year in bottle. So by the time it's released, it's at least 5 years old, and it's like velvet on your tongue. So Barolo, it envelops the flavors on your palate as opposed to smacking them around.
So it's not. So you're not looking for that acidic aspect. You're looking for the creamy, smooth.
You want acid, but you want gentle acid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about degrees of acid. Then.
Exactly. And if we had gotten the sheep's milk version that we originally talked about, the Casciota, al tortufa, the difference is on that one, the texture on that one is more almost like a Monterey Jack. It's so soft and creamy. The cheese you have is more cheddar-like. It has, if you get down to the grit, it has a little bit of a grit to it still.
Yeah.
With the Soto Serne, you get down to the base of it, and it just disappears. It just goes away completely. The texture is like it's like solid yogurt almost. It's very super creamy. And because it's so creamy, it picks up the flavors intensely well and delivers that truffle flavor through in a hurry.
Is that because it's sheep's milk and not cow's milk?
The sheep's milk gives it the flavor, and sheep's milk typically has a higher fat content than cow's milk, so you get more of the solids out of the milk, and it gives you it's just got a different flavor profile than cow's milk. And I promoted cow's milk for 35 years. And I love cow's milk cheeses. Don't get me wrong. Everything here is mostly cow's milk. But, man, there's something about sheep's milk cheeses. I freaking love sheep's milk cheeses too.
Yeah.
There's one that comes out of the Basque region of Spain and France. Used to be called Prince de Clavignol. Now it's called, I can't even think of what it's called now. That cheese goes back 4,000 years. They've been making that cheese in that region in the same mountains with the same sheep for that 4,000 years.
Wow.
You know, that kind of history.
Yeah.
There's a reason it stays around. There's a reason that cheese is still being produced today, because it's one of the greatest cheeses you ever put in your mouth.
And it's not a cheese you can make outside that region then.
Exactly.
You can try, but it's not going to be the same.
It won't be the same. And but that's what's great about cheese. There are bad cheeses, but not many. And I say not many, meaning just handfuls, handful of them in the world that I would say that's not very good cheese. But there's thousands of awesome cheeses around the world now. And America went from making a few hundred to a few thousand. We make over 1,000 cheeses in America now. And many, many countries have gone from just a handful to dozens to hundreds of cheeses. So the total cheeses available in the world now, it's probably never been this varied. The variety available in the world right now, I don't think has ever been matched. It's starting to collapse again because of the economy, and little companies go out of business. So some of the cheeses that I've been promoting for years, they've already gone belly up, or they've been gobbled up by corporations.
One of the questions that comes up a lot with cheeses is pasteurized versus raw. What are the pros and cons?
Well, if you think about cheese, we discovered pasteurization in the late 1880s or so, 1870s, I think, something like that. Right. We've been eating cheese for 10,000 years. Yeah. If non-pasteurized cheese was going to wipe us out as a species, we'd have been dead a long time ago. Is it an inherent risk? Absolutely. So is walking down the street in New York City. You'd get hit by a bus. You could have an anvil fall on your head. So is it a risk? Absolutely. Is it a big risk? No. If I was married and my wife was going to be pregnant or was pregnant, I would probably cut down on the super fresh dairy that was available to her, because the higher moisture content means bacteria breeds faster. I would probably keep her away from the high moisture cheeses like Brie Savron and like the last one we're going to try here, the Apois.
Yeah.
Because they have more chance of having bacterial problems. But cheeses like the aged Gouda, the Gruyere, those cheeses made with raw milk, if it's aged over 60 days, which is what the United States says is law, there's a bacteria war that goes on in the cheese from minute one. And by about 30 to 45 days, the good guys have won. If you made the cheese right, every time, the good guys win. Because you set it up so that they win. That's how good cheese is made. If you make cheese well, if you're a quality cheesemaker and you make raw milk cheese, you age it over 60 days in the proper conditions, I would eat anything you made and have no qualms about it.
And that 60 days is sort of the magic number. That's the day of the truce, so to speak, between the two warring sides.
To be honest, why did they pick 60? No, they'll never admit this. Because bacterially, it's about 45 days that you need to keep it.
Interesting.
But Brie and Camembert are eaten best. The small ones, like the size you have, they're eaten at about 60 to 75 days after make. They didn't want raw milk Brie and Camembert coming in this country. So they pushed it to 60 days to make sure that those cheeses could not be imported, because they would have no shelf life left once they got here.
Interesting. So now I know that for those of us who lived in Sonoma County and Marin County area, there's a wonderful Brie Camembert factory, so to speak. The Marin, what do they call it? Marin
French.
French.
Oldest factory in America. Oldest cheese factory in America.
Really? That I know. And they give a beautiful tour for anyone who's, if you're doing the West Coast tour thing, go up there and take the tour, and you can see the cheeses. Now they differentiate Brie and Camembert arbitrarily by saying, I think if I got this right, if I remember correctly, that the small ones are going to be the Bries and the large ones are the Camemberts, or vice versa. But they're really the same cheese. They just box differently.
which label do we need today?
Yeah, right. And they're just basically they're really saying it's a brie style cheese. It's a camembert style cheese.
But now,
You can't really call it camembert.
the big difference, we can't call it brie either technically, but we they grandfathered in because they've been making it since 1865. Just like Corbel champagne can still be called champagne because it goes back to 1888.
Eats their grandfather.
Predates all the bullshit, the stuff. But with brie and camembert, if they are both made with single creme, meaning you milk the cow and you make the cheese, they will be very similar. The only difference in the versions from France is where the cheeses are made. Normandy is where camembert comes from. It's a different breed of cow, and the grass has salt influence from the ocean or from the sound. What do they call it? The channel, English Channel. The brie comes from east of Paris, so it's a long way from the ocean. The cows are different, and the grass doesn't have any salt influence, so they don't get that spicy pungency of the salt grass.
Interesting.
Camembert is always made single creme because protein breaking down is what gives it that aroma. So the more fat it had, less aroma. The manufacturers in France started to realize that if the customers that wanted stinky cheese, the stinky version of brie, make it single creme and get it from Normandy, and it will ripen up really stinky, and that's camembert. If you get it from Paris region, from Ile-de-France, east of Paris, it will be softer, milder, not as earthy, not as stinky. And if you add a little more cream to it, it'll even be milder and creamier. Yeah. That's where double creme brie, triple creme brie came from.
And what we had today was the triple creme.
Creme version of that cheese. And it has no stinky, doesn't smell like dirty sweat socks or anything like a single creme like Brie de Meaux or any of the really single creme full intensity brie will or camembert. So that's why this is like, I call it butter with a skin. That's exactly why I call it.
Yeah. And if you want to taste, so in other words, if you want to really experience the difference between a true camembert and a true brie, you got to go over there to France and get the source.
Yes, if you want to get a true camembert, that's the only place it comes from. If you want to experience the difference in a non-French region, buy a single creme brie and a triple creme brie and ripen them both until they're fully mature.
Yeah.
And the one that is 50-50, the single creme brie, will be much stinkier than the one that's 3/4 butter.
Interesting. Wow.
So it's about the ratio of fat to protein. That's what does it.
Well, which now brings us to the how do you say it? The Apois, which is a serious washed rind cheese. Now, are brie considered washed rind too?
No.
All right, so this, because even though it looks like in the style and size of the little bries and camembert, it's a washed rind cheese from the Burgundy region that, when ripe, this is the one that you said is the closest thing to 6. So I've got a ripe one here, so I'm getting ready for the moment.
The difference between this and brie, the white mold, there's 3 different types of mold they use to make bries and camemberts, and different ones produce different textures and characteristics. That's where so all that rind on the Brie Savarin came from mold. This comes from bacteria. When you see an orange rind, that orange rind comes from called bacterial linens. And those are induced to grow by keeping the rind wet. If you keep the outside of the cheese wet, it starts to grow by these particular bacteria. And those are the ones that smell literally like dirty feet.
But still beneficial bacteria.
Yes, absolutely. It's very good for you.
Right now, this one is not sliding out of the box like the other one. I guess there's a paper around it. I guess I can't get it.
Take your finger and push it right in the middle and see what happens.
I got a little dimple there.
Does it stay indented?
It stays indented.
Yeah, it's hella ripe.
That's right. That's right. So should I taste it from the center?
Yes. This one you can taste all the way across.
I just lick my fingers after and I'm tasting my dirty socks. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Okay, let me get a little.
It's good all the way to the rind. It's going to be excellent no matter where you eat it.
And it will be this. Does it change flavors as you get closer to the outer rind?
Yes. Yeah, the very center will still be a little chalkier, a little bit firmer, but anywhere near the rind will be quite soft.
Oh my God, yeah.
Isn't that just
Divine.
I mean, how do you describe that flavor?
I need to have Meg Ryan describe the flavor.
Um, the one thing that's really important to understand about these cheeses is that they don't taste like they smell. If you smell them, they smell like dirty sweat socks.
Yeah.
If you taste it, it tastes like the earthiest meat you've ever eaten. Oh my God.
Yeah. And this one looks like it could get even riper.
Yep,
I mean,
it could.
It
I've
could become more butter-like, right?
had them where they will actually pour.
Would
But
this-
that's where I like it.
like this. That would it be is it comparable in fat content to a double creme cheese or
Nope, single creme.
single creme? So it's not about the fat here.
Nope, it gets that texture from the bacteria. The bacteria create that gooey, ooey texture.
Bacteria is our friend.
I'm telling you, man.
I'm going to just try a little scraping off just the orange bacterial rind.
Right?
Let's try that next.
And it's going to be intense.
It is, but it doesn't, like you say, it doesn't taste anything like it smells.
Nope.
It tastes delightful. It's wonderful.
Yep. And that's one of the cheeses. The aged Gouda.
Yeah.
The color of it will make people go, I don't know what that is. I won't buy it.
Uh-huh.
This one, it's the smell. But both of them, once you put them here, your mouth lets you know, yes, more of that, please.
Oh my God. And then again, I'm going to see what happens when I eat a grape or drink. I had some apple juice. The apple
Grape
blew up.
will be perfect.
Mm-hmm. The sweetness of the grape.
And the acidity, mild tannic acid in the grape, just busts right through.
I feel like I'm envisioning the scene from Young Frankenstein where the monster and Madeline Kahn are in bed together at the end, smoking the cigarettes.
Right.
And I could see her saying, give me a little bit of that cheese and some grapes.
No doubt, man. Yeah. So now that you've been through the 5,
Yeah.
those, I think, if anybody was into cheese and had all 5 of those cheeses on their plate,
Yeah.
they'd have a pretty good evening.
Would a restaurant, how like in the really good, continental French restaurants, they have a cheese course.
Sure.
And it's usually served at the end of the meal.
Oh,
So with these all kinds of, do these cheeses would how many of these cheeses would be on that cheese cart?
all of them.
And
A version of all of them.
uh
I mean, as you've seen when you go to your Whole Foods and stuff, there's a lot of different cheeses that are pretty similar. So it might not be the exact brand of aged Gouda that you've got here, but they'll probably have an aged Gouda, depending upon how big the cheese board is. Some places will have 6 cheeses. If you got 6 to choose from, you may not have all of these, but you will have one of the Brie Savarin style, a Brie style cheese. You will have a semi-hard cheese like the Gruyere, or a hard cheddar or something. You'll have an aged cheese like the aged Gouda, or an aged Parm, or aged Asiago, or one of those, Piave Vecchio. And then you'll have a 4th cheese that is common for plates, which will be either blue or wash rind. That's for 4. If you have 6, you'll have blue and wash rind, and then you'll usually have one fresh or flavored. In this case, we have a truffle, or you could have a fresh cheese like a fresh ricotta or something. So, but the semi-soft like the Brie Savarin, a semi-hard, a hard cheese, and a blue cheese is pretty much standard foursome.
wow. I'll tell you, I feel like this has been a master class today and deep dive into cheeses, and I'm learning things today, even though we've had 5 other episodes together that I'm hearing for the first time or remembering. So the first time. That's okay. Thank you. And thank you, Mark, so much for not only sharing, all your knowledge, but for coming back now that you're no longer, in the industry. You got nothing to sell. You're not in the game. You're just living the life and enjoying life. And I'm guessing, because we could keep doing cheese shows forever and I'll never get bored of them. But
Sure.
you also have a lot of interest in, you're a fermento guy. You love fermented things. And you're also a mushroom forager, and you're getting ready to enter into mushroom season, right?
We just got our first 1.25 inches of rain in the last 4 days. So I'm heading out.
20 days later, you should be.
Well, if the first mushrooms to pop will be chanterelle, and they only need about 1 inch. So they'll be up in about 7 to 10 days. So we're going next Friday to see what's up. If we get a good 2+ inch soak, it will trigger all the porcini, the Boletus edulus. And those take about 2 weeks, 17 days, 18 days like that to really grow and get big enough to be happy to pick. But we just tripped the trigger. So it's starting, and I'm very excited about this year's mushroom season. I can't wait.
Well, if you get a good harvest and want to come back on and share the bounty with us and walk us through that would be phenomenal.
I'm going next Friday. So if depends on what's up, I'll let you know. I'll send you a text on Friday, and if it looks good, we can set something up for the following Monday or Tuesday, just to so that I get them when they're fresh.
And I know that you practice the classic safety rule of mushroom hunting. There's
old mushroom hunters and there's bold mushroom hunters. There are no old, bold mushroom hunters.
There you go. And that is the dictum that governs it all. So, if I was still living out there, I'd be going out with you as my guy.
Absolutely. And that's how you learn it. You learn by going with someone that knows what they're doing. You can read in a book until you're blue in the face. And I encourage that. Learn all you can from the book. Yeah. But before you put one in your mouth, go with somebody that's already put that in their mouth before. But once you learn them, it's not hard, man. It's people ask me, how do you know the difference? And I'm like, can you tell the difference between a tulip and a rose? Yeah. Well, guess what? Just learn what you're looking at.
You know if you learn the craft. Yeah. And I know you're also, now we've talked about other things that you ferment, whether it's, sauerkraut or vegetables or pickles, but you're also now, kind of in my wheelhouse, you're making bread, sourdough, wild yeast, natural yeast, leavened bread. And that's another thing we could talk about down the road, because knowing how much you embrace, these crafts, I'm imagining that pretty soon you'll be doing breads of the level of this cheese. You'll be doing breads where people say, if you the first time I tasted this bread, it was better than sex.
And to be honest with you, for a guy that wants to learn everything about everything, when I got into this baking, I purposely kind of just focused on one kind of bread, the bread that I eat every day, because I wanted to replace the bread that I was buying for a ridiculous amount of money.
Look, yeah.
And so I'm not sure I want to learn everything there is to know about baking, because I already weigh a lot more than I should. And if I knew how to make streusel and all those things, it would be a bad thing, man. So I would like to hear you talk about bread and fermentation of flours and the difference between rye and bulgur and barley, and how to use different grains and stuff. Yeah. I have great interest in that. So let's interview you about that.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like you know the 800 or 1,000 different kinds of cheeses. There's a lot of different ways of doing bread fermentation and baking. We just had a show that recently aired about rye bread. A guy, whose passion was to bring back the Jewish rye bread of his youth. Right. And so you can go in a lot of different ways with bread. So we'll talk. Well, we'll do a bread show together too, and we'll talk. Again, it always comes down to the big category for all this is fermentation. Fermented milk, fermented grapes, fermented wheat, and fermentation is the magic ingredient. It's the alchemy.
It's what makes food tasty. Really, it's
the bottom line for me, and the key word in all of that is it's transformational.
Yes.
and that's why I think people love it so much, and why you love what you're doing, why you spent 35 years, immersing yourself in cheese, because you were living in a world of transformation and fascinated with it. So
I'm absolutely fascinated. I mean, I always have been. How did we learn this stuff 100,000 years ago? How did we know how to make food safe 100,000 years ago? And we did. We were doing it. We were already preserving food, salting it, drying it, curing it, and I'm just fascinated by that. Always have been.
Well, and the cool thing is you do all this transformation and play with bacteria, and we live to tell the story.
And you get to eat it when you're done,
and then you get to enjoy it. Yeah. Well, Mark, Todd, the cheese dude, and more. Now we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you for coming back, as you have many times, and for taking us even deeper onto I will call it the Mount Rushmore. We had five cheeses that could be on the Mount Rushmore of cheeses, but really your Mount Rushmore could have probably 25 different kinds of cheeses on it.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Peter, it's been a pleasure. And I'll let you know next week if the mushroom season has started and it's worth doing a talk.
And we'll get you back. And thank all of you for joining us today on Pizza Quest. We'll look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you, Mark. See you all soon.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.